It's All Things Considered, HPR, and I'm Dave Lawrence. Starting tonight at the Honoka'a People's Theater, and then continuing tomorrow at Crossroads at Hawaiian Brian's in Honolulu before reaching the Kauai Beach Resort, the Mac, and the Castle Theater in Kahului on Saturday. It's Dave Mason getting a tour underway called The Very Best of Dave Mason, and we're excited to be welcoming him back to the show. Hey, Dave, thanks for doing this. Appreciate it.
No, thank you.
And what do you like, living on Maui these days?
I have a house here.
Okay, well, that makes it easy, huh?
Yeah.
And how long are you going to be in Honolulu, actually, when you come over?
We're just doing 4 islands,
right?
One after the other.
Okay.
We're just like in, play, sleep, go.
Okay. I was going to say, it'd be great to get you into the studio with your acoustic or something for a song or two. One of these times. You've been on a few times with us. You're calling this one the Very Best of Dave Mason Tour. So for folks who are out there thinking about laying down some dough and going to see you, describe the format and what folks are in for.
Well, obviously, it's spans some of the material that I've put out since I started, basically, from Alone Together. A couple of new things, a couple of things we throw in, sort of other people's songs. Tony Patler, my keyboard player, and John Sambatero, my other guitar player, both have great voices. So then there's a mix of, we delve into some Traffic stuff. Where I have my own arrangement of a couple of them, but it's great. I mean, if you're into just some really great music, some cool songs, then it's a show to see. No dancing girls, no fire, no exploding bombs, no
laser lights this year. When I was looking at your, you have a fascinating life, and have gotten to cross paths with so many important people and make so many contributions along the way. How did you first develop a passion for music, singing, and the guitar?
Well, it was kind of after I figured that working 9 to 5 was not going to work for me. So I just saw, I'm born in 1946, rock and roll basically in the 50s, so I'm kind of close to the early stuff. And that was starting to all happen when I was growing up.
What was the first one that you gravitated to as a little kid that you can remember going, wow, I love this?
Well, I was pretty much into music. I mean, I was in the school choirs and all that stuff and the school plays. So I already had kind of a leaning towards doing something along those lines, I guess. But, I guess it just was like, you know what? I want a guitar. I want to start playing with guitar. So that's where it started. And then my big role model when I first started at 15 and 16 was Hank Marvin.
Okay.
Shadows.
Right. Who influenced other cats too.
Which incidentally I do, I also do Apache, my little homage to the Shadows.
Nice.
So I do little instrumental stuff. Surf music, you call it over here.
And so your first one was in an acoustic or electric that you got? Was it an electric right off the bat?
I like electric, like $40 thing, $35.
And you're about 15 when that happens?
Yeah, 14, 15.
And so describe where you were in your life when that historic encounter happened when you met Steve Winwood, who you would go on to co-found Traffic with.
Well, Jim Capaldi and I had a couple of bands in Worcester, 35 miles from Birmingham, where the Spencer Davis group was from, and we were fans, and we do pubs and things like that, play there up in Birmingham in the early bands that Jim and I had. And there was a late night after hours place called the Elbow Room that had music. You could go and eat there late, but it was semi-private. So a lot of the artists would go there. And that's where we met Steve, basically. And we just developed into we just hung out for a year and a half when we could. Just listening to records, playing music, whatever. And it just developed into Traffic.
Way that things sort of remarkable encounters that you have had throughout your life, very similarly, you run into somebody and it would end up making a huge thing happen. Like one of those examples might be in the 60s, you were there when a certain guitar player first heard a song that he would cover, eclipse the original with it by a mile, and include you on his recording of it. Tell that story about All Along the Watchtower.
Hendrix.
Yep.
Well, I mean, in London, there were just, everybody had to finish up in London. It's the only major city in England. So pretty much, and again, you had these late semi-private, they were actually private clubs. There were 2 or 3 of them in the 60s in London. And everybody would be there. You could walk in any night of the week. And Jimi was sitting by himself, and I just went over and started talking to him. He was a Traffic fan. And we just struck up a conversation and just sort of became not close friends, but certainly we hung out together a number of times, and one of them was at somebody's apartment one afternoon, had a advanced copy of John Wesley Harding,
landmark Bob Dylan album coming out right then,
on which was a song called All Along the Watchtower. So I guess something piqued Jim's interest, and then found myself in the studio with him, and Mitch Mitchell to put the basic track down on that, me playing the 12-string. So yeah, and I'm also I also sang on Crosstown Traffic on that album.
Yeah, right.
Also,
I mean, yeah, in addition to that incredible Bob Dylan cover, which he completely made into its own version with you on it.
He was something else.
He was. And the Crosstown Traffic, talk about that. Was that recorded at the same time or at a different occasion?
It may have been a different day, same studio.
Okay. That was about the same time frame that you recorded with the Rolling Stones on Beggar's Banquet, correct?
Yeah, same studio, same engineer. Everybody was using Olympic.
And what was that like with those amazing cats who were just...
Well, I kind of knew Brian Jones a little bit and hung out with him, so... people would cross paths either because they were all using the same studios or they were all in the same after-hours club. So it was a very small scene in England, So it was not, and I just was there because, I don't know, it was the same engineer, same producers, Traffic, Jimmy Miller, and I was probably visiting Jimi, and they were putting this track down for Street Fighting Man, and said, hey, man, come, play some drums on this. So me and Charlie and Brian and Keith sat down in a circle and put down the basic track to what is Street Fighting Man.
Incredible. What an incredible... I mean, these are just 3 giant chestnuts so far, just in one conversation here. And when you talk about that small scene, I've got to believe that had a lot to do with the way something like... Because I had Rita Coolidge on the other day, and she was telling me about the Delaney and Bonnie and Friends tour, and you were part of that, Clapton, George Harrison. Give us a little insight, like how do you end up popping in on that, and what are some memories of that remarkable time?
Well, when I first came to... moved from England and went to America in 1969. I knew a band called Delaney and Bonnie. And I knew some of the players in there, and a lot of those people were the session guys in LA. So basically, a lot of them were on Alone Together.
Right.
Leon Russell. But those are the people that were sort of Jim Kelton and Jim Gordon, all those a lot of people, Tulsa people. I just spent time with them, and then also during the initial period of being around, I got to play guitar with Delaney and Bonnie. So that finished up with me going out on the Blind Faith tour, basically, which Delaney and Bonnie opened, which is basically where Eric got to take most of that band and turn it into Derek and the Dominos later on. But I knew all those people from 68, 69 when I come over here to visit and stuff. Then they had a number 2 record with Only You Know and I Know.
Right. And then you got to, you must have developed some sort of rapport with Eric, because at least you were considered for that second guitar role in Derek and the Dominos, did the early studio sessions and that first gig at London's Lyceum Theatre.
Yeah, they did.
Talk about working up close with Slowhand and how you developed that kind of position for yourself.
Just like it's just we're all English guys, and we all knew each other from Traffic and Cream and John Mayall days on and off, and so it just came about, and I was doing really nothing at the time, and so yeah, I was for the very early part of Derek and the Dominos. They actually cut some stuff. Then we did a show, and most of us were all housed there, pretty much all of us in Surrey or Sussex or somewhere. But for me, it just got to a point, unfortunately, where it was just right around that time where, which is not public information. It's been put out there enough. When Eric got involved in heroin through Jim Gordon, and it just it's funny for me. It was just there was a lot of sitting around doing nothing, so
right.
I kind of got antsy and just said, "Guys, this is great, but I think I'm going to go back to the States and I don't know, start another album or something." So yeah,
and you did.
And I did.
You got very busy doing a whole bunch of stuff. And what's funny, when you think about, again, the smallness of the scene, when you look at your history of records, there are a number of times through the years, especially Graham Nash, but also David Crosby, even Stephen Stills. They all show up in different ways, guesting with you through the years on different songs. How did you develop your rapport with them, and are you still close with those cats?
Well, I knew Graham from the Hollies, and I was here, and I was in L.A. when I moved, and so was he. So we knew each other. So I would just, when they were just forming that band, and they all lived in a house. They'd rented Peter Tork's house somewhere up on top of Mulholland Drive. They were all living in there, working on what they were going to do, just like Traffic did with the Cottage. And so I'd go up there and visit.
Peter Tork from the Monkees. Peter Tork from the Monkees.
Yeah, they'd rented his house up there. Great spot. But yeah, they were doing like Traffic did when we just put ourselves away in the Cottage. They were working on what the three of them were going to do together. So yeah, I would just, like I said, it was only because I knew Graham from England. So I go up and visit and hang out and see what was going on, see what they were doing.
It kept through the years, though, because you got him throughout.
Well, with Graham, yeah, I do. I mean, we don't, see each other once in a blue moon, but
he shows up on a number of your records. On Split Coconut, another band who was just in the studio with me the other day, Manhattan Transfer, I see, our guest.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are cool guys.
How'd you end up deciding to get them on there?
I knew them from a after-hours bar and restaurant in Manhattan on 2nd Avenue.
Wow.
A lot of music industry people and stuff would hang there, but they were all friends of the owner.
That's cool.
And I had a song, and it was like, oh, these guys would be cool for this.
Right, you just knew it'd be perfect. Right, I know what you're saying. Hearing their sound, it's just like, I know where I could use this. This is and when I was checking out It's Like You Never Left, and again, we've got Dave Mason on the line coming to town, a whole bunch of shows, and we're looking at some of the fascinating history he's got. And not only is Graham Nash on some tracks, but according to the listing of that, isn't George Harrison on one and then Stevie Wonder on another?
Yeah.
Incredible. He's got
his name on there, Son of Harry. And Stevie Wonder I'd known on and off from the past a little bit. And again, we were using the same engineers in the same studio in LA. So it was, we crossed sessions. And I had a song called The Lonely One, and I just thought, man, it'd be beautiful. I wonder if Stevie would just play harmonica on this, because it'd be so cool for this tune. And he was like, it's sure. Not a problem.
Were you there when he cut it?
Oh, yeah.
You sit,
I mean, he did it about 2 takes, you know. Boom, here.
and you're just sitting there watching him from the control room doing it.
Yeah, but I'd been to a number of his sessions. Well, he was cutting, I think, Songs in the Key of Life, was it? I think it was that one.
Could have been. To watch him laying it down, that must have given you chills, because he was already the hugest of cats because of his childhood, his legacy. And George Harrison, how'd you end up getting him on there too?
George, that same way I met Hendrix, same being in London.
And you just kept the rapport?
You just run into all these people.
Where did he record that, in London or over in the States?
Which one?
It's Like You Never Left. There's the one track.
That one. That was it was cut in. It was cut in L.A. I can't remember which studio.
And there's another odd one, which a couple of guys who actually they work together too. So it's kind of weird to have kept them to mentioned in the same sort of area. Paul McCartney, Wings. Listen to What the Man Said. How'd you find yourself onto that?
I was doing a show in New Orleans at the Warehouse, and he was in Alan Toussaint's studio recording stuff for that album. And so a couple of guys had come to the show the night of my show, and I had a day off or two after it, and which I was going to spend in New Orleans anyway. And it was like, well, just come on over to the studio, hang out. So that's what we did. Paul was saying, here's a guitar. Come on, there's the lick. Let's play this.
Wow.
But I'd known him on and off anyway, back from Sgt. Pepper days.
You do the recording with him present right there?
Yeah.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah. And the other two cats, since we've talked about half the Beatles, did you ever cross paths with, actually you briefly did something with Ringo, anything with John?
No.
Okay. Right, and I had read you had briefly been part of Ringo's All-Star Band or something like that.
Yeah, it was, but it wasn't.
Right, I hear you. That can be a tricky gig. Enough said.
It was, but it was. It didn't happen for me. I didn't do it. It didn't happen.
I get you.
They just never took my name out of the billing.
In 1980s, Save Me, duet with Michael Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Now that is the king of pop. We were just talking about Sir Paul, and obviously they had worked together famously. How did you run into Michael, and how did that work out?
He was in the other studio, in the same studio that I was recording in, and I had this song "Save Me." Then I need somebody with a high voice to sing these harmonies because they were kind of high. And somebody said Michael was in there, and I was like, well, Michael can sing high. Maybe he'll sing this part for me. So I went over to the studio, and he was on a break. He was actually standing in the doorway. And I said, hey, man, hi, how you doing? And Dave Mason, and got this track, and I need this high harmony part. How would you feel about singing it for me? And he kind of looked at me for a minute. He said, when I was 12 years old, I did this TV special with Diana Ross. And he said, and the last song that we all sang at the end of the show was a song called Feeling All Right. Wow. So, yeah, man, absolutely.
Oh, wow. Coming full circle. I love that kind of talk. That's huge. Yeah. That is huge. You must
6 degrees of separation.
Right, totally. You must have just been was that, we've talked about it years ago, but when you, to have Joe Cocker take one of your jams, turn it into what he turned it into, what do you feel for a musician who does something like that with a piece of your work?
I wish it was me.
Right.
It's like, yeah, okay. I wrote it, but you did it.
Hey, at least you're honest about it. I hear you.
Yeah, man. His verse. I mean, it was just minute. Denny Cordell played it to me. I was like, yeah, okay. If he hadn't have done that song, it would have never have gotten the number, how many covers it's gotten.
Right.
It's crazy.
And look at the way that it's also similarly, he covers that, makes it a big hit. It's your tune, but there you are, you're side by side with Hendrix on a Dylan tune when he takes that song and makes it the huge song that it was, right? So that's, I guess, your payback for not for not having your version of Feeling All Right be so huge. At least you got to be with Jimi when he took Dylan's thing to a new level.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, give a plug for rockourvets.org before we wrap it up, which is an important thing.
Rockourvets.org. My dear friend Teddy Knapp on the East Coast and I have a non-profit charity, which is, as I like to explain, all volunteer, and that whatever we get goes where it's supposed to go. It's not paying for anything else except minimal stuff, but. So we support any uniformed service, mostly military, but we support all uniformed service, law enforcement, fire, whatever, and we don't just look for money, especially with the vets and stuff, because they do anything. You got clothes, you got a computer, you got a truck, you got a car, you got whatever. That's what we do.
You're looking at vets who are in crisis, who are you targeting, or is homeless vets?
Well, they all are for the most part. I mean, there's like some ridiculous number of suicides a day with the vets.
Right.
I mean, these people you give them a computer, they're grateful. So as much as they're trying to clean things up, man, they're just, and I'm 1946. I'm the year right after the last World War. So I support anybody but and they're just not treated right when they come back. Otherwise, we wouldn't exist.
Right. Well, we wouldn't exist as people, and rockourvets.org certainly wouldn't exist either. So
yeah. So anything you got, you can help somebody out. Please go check it out and help out there, because they're more than grateful for anything.
That's very, very considerate of you to include them. And are you a public radio supporter, Dave?
Well, yeah. I've been watching. Been watching a few of the programs on TV.
But I mean, on the radio, you listen to the radio and NPR and stuff.
Radio. You know what? I don't have a radio.
Okay.
Believe it or not.
Well, you're off the grid almost over there. Who can blame you?
No, it's not third world, believe me.
No, I know.
I just don't have one.
No, it's definitely not right there.
Aloha, it's Dave Mason. We could not be in a better place if we tried. And we're spending the afternoon with our friend Dave Lawrence. It's All Things Considered on Hawaii Public Radio. Can't do it without your help, though. So please become a member and make your pledge today. Thank you.
Awesome. I love it, brother. Giving you a big hug and
right.
Sending you lots of aloha. Hope you had fun today. I appreciate you doing this, Dave.
Oh, hey, no, thanks for the help and the promo.
You're welcome. And huge aloha and mahalo to you, Dave Mason. Great to have you on the show, and we'll see you when you get to town. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Aloha.